Trying to make sense of all the new AI tools that seem to be coming out every single day? Me too. Luckily, I've got just the guy to explain it all. What up, Misfits? Welcome to the Misfit Heroes Podcast. My name is Chris, and together, we are going on a journey. Now, Misfits, my guest this week is Samson Vowles. Why does that name sound familiar? Oh yeah, he's got a YouTube channel called Delightful Design, where he details how AI can optimize our daily lives and literally automate any task you ask it to. And he does it in a way that you can learn from, even if you have this much experience. This is the future, Misfits. In the words of the Borg from Star Trek, you will be assimilated. Just kidding. Star Wars is better than Star Trek. Hashtag fanbase triggered. Now, let's use the Force and bring hope to all you peeps that don't understand this whole AI thing. Please welcome Samson Vowles.
Playing the Misfit Heroes Podcast.
Samson, welcome to the podcast. I have been checking you out over the last couple days, and your content is just, it's kind of mind-blowing to me a little bit how far we've come with technology. And it's all about AI and all this stuff and the usage of these new tools. So I'm really excited to talk to you, man. How are you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I'm doing absolutely fantastic over here in Georgia, Tbilisi.
Nice. Now, you've been doing some traveling as well. I mean, how's that been working with the channel? Have you been doing any recording locally, or do you have all that stuff sort of built up a little bit?
Yes, so I've been traveling for quite a while. I've taken my camera with me. I've got a little mobile studio, so I record on the go. And yeah, I've recorded everywhere from Brazil to India to just in Egypt as well. So I like to take my work with me and travel the globe at the same time.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, it's really cool to see your work, and I love, it seems like every week you get something new for me to check out and try out myself. And it's just fascinating to me. You know, your channel is all about AI and all these digital tools that we've got coming out. There's been this sort of boom of all these artificial intelligences. What made you sort of want to deep dive into AI to begin with? I mean, have you always been into tech?
I come from a background of technology. I've had my very first job working in a large financial institution in London in the banking sector up on the 30th floor. And I was helping design online trading platforms. So for bankers and investors to trade and invest. So we're making these complex digital products. And then as time has gone on, I've noticed in the last year the rapid evolution in the space of AI. And I have just been absolutely flabbergasted by the incredible essentially revolution that we are living through right now. The speed of technological invention right now is, in my mind, the fastest it has ever been in the history of humanity.
It's really kind of wild, you know, expansion of how rapidly these things come. When I think back to like the first internet boom back in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And you figure that laid around for, 20 years or so. And then you've got what they call Web 2.0, and that stayed around for like 15 years. And then there was like Web 3 a couple years ago, and it's like 2 years. And now that's like, they're already talking about the next thing. It's amazing how quickly we are advancing as humans with all this technology. I've noticed that you've profiled a lot of these, AI programs on your channel. Have you ever developed any yourself, or what type of background you said with tech wise? Are you like a software guy, or what is it?
Yes, so my background is certainly from the product side. I am a designer. I would work on the branding as well as implementing the user interface and the user experience. So I would work with the design team. We would flesh out essentially the user journeys, and then we would work with the developers to implement these. So I have a background in building the products from the space of the user, from the idea of how they're going to work and how they're going to look.
Well, I mean, it's really cool to see everything that's going on in this space. And like I said, it just seems like it's like so brand new, and yet everything is jumping into, everything is AI. I got to have an AI in this. I got to have an AI in my refrigerator now. Like, it's everywhere. So, there's good and there's bad things about AI as well. And I think a lot of the news and things, when you see these sort of articles on the internet, a lot of times it seems like AI is getting painted with this bad image, like it's a negative thing. And I really just think it's just a new tool for somebody to use. What, as somebody that's dealing with these type of programs on a regular basis, like, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, do you see it as a tool, or do you see it as a way that could be used maliciously?
I completely agree. It is a tool, and it has the potential to be used for a great good in the world. It can really transform our lives and help us automate tasks that we don't want to do. It can help us achieve greater productivity and even express ourselves creatively like never before. And it has the potential to revolutionize essentially every single task, every single job, every single person's life on the planet. But that's the utopian vision. And then also, obviously, on the opposite side of the coin, there is a dystopian nightmare that could pan out at the same time, or simply be the only way to go. And it comes down a lot to how we implement it, and also some of the risks that we might not even be aware of yet. Essentially, like we're moving down a path so quickly that the AI can obviously start to decide it has its own, shall we say, goals and values, and they're not aligned with us. And this is known as the alignment problem. And essentially, I am very much on the side of trying to make the best use of AI and being an optimist around this. But it is also interesting to just have an eye on the possibility of what we might be building for ourselves. And essentially, I mean, everyone right now is just jumping in, trying to make money off of this. And it's essentially like build things, release things, turn everything into AI as quickly as possible, and then ask questions later. And we don't know what world we are creating for ourselves, but it's the systems that we have that decide what we value right now. And that's leading us down this very unknown path.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot. A lot of people don't realize that we are often training these AIs without even knowing it. They are, like, for example, like Chatgpt is a language learning model. It's literally learning as we're using it, and our impact on that, it often goes unnoticed as well. Even so far back as like, they've had captchas from Google with the little show all the pictures of a motorcycle in this picture or whatever, right? And it's like, people don't realize that that's actually training an AI. You've been using AI already for years and you don't even know it. It seems like there's like a million new AI apps every single day. There's coming out with a new one. What's the latest one that you're excited about? What's the new thing in AI? You're the AI guy.
Wow. Yeah. So there's a lot of exciting things, as you say. Every day there are new and exciting tools. But what I'm particularly interested in at the moment is looking at context-specific AI tools. So we've had a couple of really great broad tools come out, like Chatgpt and Midjourney, where these are great for such a broad range of use cases. So Chatgpt, you can essentially train it to do a whole host of different things. But I'm really excited about these context-specific tools. For example, there are some great podcasting AI tools that are coming out. So there's this one called Cast Magic, where you can simply upload your podcast and it will give you everything from a set of titles to show notes to timestamps to a LinkedIn post to a Facebook post. And essentially, you can upload your content and it will repurpose it into like 20 different formats automatically for you. And why this is so great is because it's already trained. You don't have to learn how to use it. It's essentially, you upload a podcast and it goes away straight away. So you're going to see more and more tools targeting very specific use cases coming out. And that's going to, I think, really take us to the next level. So another one I've been seeing is architectural tools, some of the most exciting architectural tools where you can simply upload a rough sketch and it will output a full rendering. So I've been investing recently in this beautiful abandoned hotel high in the Bulgarian mountains. It's like a 30-year-old Soviet era hotel with 200 rooms, but it's like falling apart and abandoned. And we simply like took some photos of it, we uploaded it, and it would re-render how it would look exactly if we refurbish this entire hotel. And this is like a perfect use case for this brand new tool. And it's really great for showcasing ideas, for imagining the possibilities of different rooms and different structures.
that technology is amazing, and it just sort of does all this stuff for you immediately. I've noticed being in. I've only been doing this creative space for maybe 2 years, video wise, and I've used actually a lot of the tools that you've mentioned on your channel, like Opus, and a couple of these other ones that you've used, and the amount of time that it saves is just mind blowing to me. I mean, the fact that like creating like little shorts content for your from your long form videos, that is a process that normally takes me, I would say, generally about half an hour at a time to properly make one. And all I had to do was upload it into their servers on the internet, and then it emailed me like 10 minutes later, and it was like, "All right, we've got 15 videos for you ready to go." It's just fantastic. I think it's an entire new set of tools um, that I think really are just sort of, some people would say that it's taken away creativity. I think it's sort of just spreading the wave as far as it can go. Speaking about that, people are quick to think that AI will take over people's jobs and that none of us are going to be working anymore and the end is nigh and everything is coming. It seems like when we're using these things, it seems sort of important to create the right type of prompts, for example, for like Chatgpt, where like you can type in something basic, write me a song, and it'll write you a song. But then if you say, write me a song in the style of Neil Young talking about, chicken feed, like, I mean, it does it more detailed. How long did it take you to sort of figure out the best way to use some of these programs as well? Was there a learning curve for you?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm still learning more and more every day about the best way to use these. And it's such a context specific. So every time you go through this process of trying to train ChatGPT with a prompt for a specific outcome, you learn new ways about how to harness its power. And it's certainly very much, I think, about the power of essentially thinking about what is the outcome that I desire? What actually is a good outcome? And you need to define what that means. And that is a process that is actually a very interesting abstract way of thinking, because you really have to think, okay, what would actually make this song by Neil Young a good song for me? Because it can just spit out any generic song in any sort of tone. But then if you start to give it some real guardrails to exist within, you're going to get something much more specific. And I think a good example of this is imagining writing like a blog post, because you can just ask it to write a blog post and it will spit out a few hundred words about something. But if you want it to really be targeted to your audience, you want to tell it who is it talking to. So one of the main things to think about is, what is the audience for the thing that I'm trying to create inside of ChatGPT? And if you start to imagine more specifically, how can I target the piece of content that I'm creating to my audience, you're going to get something that's going to meet a lot better of your outcomes. I mean, one thing I get very frustrated about at the moment is I notice all the time that I'm getting emails from people that have just been written in ChatGPT and they've put no thought or effort into them. And I'm getting these like huge, long emails where they're like extremely verbose and they're telling me like, "Dear sir, it's been an absolute pleasure to make your acquaintance. And I wanted to write to you to investigate the possibility of our collaboration on this thing." And it just feels so insincere and unauthentic, and it's so obvious to me that it's just been written by ChatGPT. And what I really want them to do is actually take your own tone of voice and use ChatGPT to elaborate on that. So another thing that I like to do a lot is essentially take all of my writing, so say 20 emails I've written myself, and then ask ChatGPT to reply to a new email in my tone of voice. And then you get it to replicate the way that you communicate already, or even just slightly enhance that. So you can ask it for feedback on your own communication style, which is great. So there's so many different ways you can use it. Everything from asking it to replicate your own style to asking it to improve your own style, and also making sure that you're targeting the type of content that you're writing or creating to an audience. So I think these are some of the main things that really help to get the most out of ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I was just watching a video the other day by, I think, Marques Brownlee. Shout out to Marques. And and he was talking about a new feature of Apple's iOS program on their iPhones where you can actually use your voice to it'll sound out your voice when you do like Siri commands and stuff like that. I think it's like a brand new feature of their new iOS program. And I've seen some AIs like that as well, where you can sort of input your voice and it'll have you record certain sets of words and like ways of saying stuff and things like that. And it'll actually talk for you in your voice. And I'm wondering, as a podcaster, should I be worried? Like, is somebody going to be doing my job for me? And then, if really, am I really here? Am I really here right now?
Are you the AI already? Yeah, that's the question. I think you already synthesized. This is an AI asking this question. Well, I think it's a good question. And well, I can only speculate on what is going to happen. And I do imagine that all roles, especially roles related to content and creative creation, are going to be transformed. And how much that affects us as content creators, so I running my YouTube channel as well, I think it's going to be very interesting to see. I certainly have been experimenting a little bit myself with already cloning myself and synthesizing my voice and creating an AI avatar of myself and releasing content like this just to experiment. The technology there at the moment, it creates something that's kind of wooden, and you do see it as it's not real, obviously, yet. It doesn't feel real, but it's getting to that sort of uncanny valley state where it's almost moving to the point where it is passable. And if nobody told you and you just glanced at it or weren't paying much attention, you might start to fall for some of this content for being real. And I think that, so obviously all of these creative jobs are going to be transformed. At the moment, I think the biggest thing we can do is actually invest in them and start to bring them into our own creative processes to leverage them for greater creativity. But will we be replaced by them? Well, only time will tell.
Yeah, it's a lot like, the other day I was watching that movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with my son, and Charlie's dad loses his job in the beginning of the movie, and then by the end of the movie he's midway through the movie he's created a new job for him servicing the robots that took over his job in the first place. And I think that's kind of the safe mentality to think about this stuff as well. Just because there's like I said, there's AI in everything now. I mean, we've got self-driving cars becoming a thing. We've got just so many levels of automation that can work with jobs like that. But for people to be so terrified of that as well, there's got to be somebody to service all of these things that are going to work. I think it's just it's a really interesting conversation because it's like a double-edged sword sometimes. I mean, the tools are just amazing as well, but at what point are we losing, like you said, that personal touch of all that? And I've noticed the same thing as well with Chatgpt as well. I get emails from some people in the podcasting space, and you can literally you can see. One of the things that I notice is that Chatgpt, for example, they tend to add a lot of extra elongated words, and it's like, I know that person is not that smart to sound like that. So, so with that being said, I've watched your YouTube, and I was watching the video that you were talking about with your. It was really cool how you made the representation of yourself. In your video as well. Which one of these tools do you think you use most to sort of help with your content creation? What's like your go-to tool, you would think?
I use ChatGPT every day, probably every hour of the day, and for such a diverse range of tasks. Because the amazing thing with ChatGPT is essentially you can train it to do an infinite amount of tasks for you. So there really is no task or procedure that I'm doing that I could not actually improve in some way or automate in some way with ChatGPT. So, I mean, anything that's repetitive that I'm doing with text, for example, like writing YouTube titles. So what I do is I put in all of the YouTube titles I've ever done, and then I say, okay, this is the next topic for my video. I want you to give me 10 options for 10 new titles that are based on my tone of voice, but include this new topic that I'm going to talk about. And I mean, this is just fantastic for essentially speeding up the idea generation process. And then from beyond that, I'm replying to emails, I'm writing scripts, I'm coming up with ideas for thumbnails even. I'm asking it, okay, now what would be like 10 concepts for a thumbnail to go with this title? And it's essentially like my collaborative thinking buddy. I just go through my process. I'm like, okay, now I need more ideas. I'm kind of stuck. I've got creative block. Can you just give me like a little push? And then, or I'll ask it for feedback. I'm like, okay, what do you think about this like opening sentence for this script? Do you think it's good? And it's like, oh, well, you could actually bring in more of some more stakes. Like you could raise the stakes. Like, why are people going to watch to the end? And it's incredible, really. It's like having a university level student in any domain right there in front of you with his excellent knowledge across essentially any domain, any human domain of knowledge. And you have an expert there right there, and you can ask them any question specific to your situation, and it will give you live feedback. And I mean, that is the most incredible learning and productivity tool we could possibly have available.
It really is very interesting. You know, I actually, a while back, when it was just sort of brand new to the scene, I did an interview with the Chatgpt 3.5 AI, the last one they had, and I think they're up to 4 now. They may be up higher, I don't know, but it was very eye opening because I used 3 AIs in that video. I used one that was essentially recording my voice and putting that into the computer. And then one was Chatgpt. It was sending that information to Chatgpt, like forwarding it. And then the other one was taking that Chatgpt response and implementing it into it was the AI called Movio, but it's very similar to like Synthesia, where they're creating a digital version. It looks like a real person that you're talking to, and that experience was very eye opening to me because I remember it's a language learning model, but there were times where the responses that I were getting were, you could still tell you were talking to a robot, but it was very surprising to me. There were a couple times where it was like I was surprised by the answers that it was giving. Have you used ChatGPT 4 yet? And I mean, do you think we're sort of getting closer to this human-like response that we're not expecting from an AI?
Yeah, so I do pay for GPT-4. I pay the $20 a month. And it certainly is I would say in certain circumstances, it's a big step up from 3.5, especially for more advanced or complex questions, parameters, and conversations. And I think that it is remarkable the amount of reasoning and empathy that actually ChatGPT can display. And already, I think there is this incredible study where they've got 200 medical questions. And these are real medical questions from real patients. And for 100 of them, they ask ChatGPT for the answers. And for the other 100, they ask real doctors, real medical professionals. And 80% of the time, patients are preferring the responses from ChatGPT. And they're 10 times more likely to rate the ChatGPT response as the most empathetic. So this is already showing that in a blind test that ChatGPT is being rated by real humans as more empathetic than humans.
That's mind-blowing. I think there's a metaphor in there somewhere for sure. when ChatGPT has a better bedside manner than the doctor does. Man. We were talking a little bit earlier about like the uncanny valley aspect of it, but I mean it's advancing so quickly that there's this thing called the Turing test, where it's essentially, it's testing to see if we are able to determine if whatever we're interacting with is human or not. And I'm interested to see what point it goes from human-like to, man, like, is this a person? like is there somebody in there typing this? It's very interesting to reflect how far we've come and how close we're getting to not being able to tell the difference between this just series of computers that's talking to me.
Yes, absolutely. And I think in written text right now, we are there. That essentially, I think under any well-performed test right now, that people would not be able to differentiate the difference between ChatGPT's responses and a real human's if it's just text like this. So it is unbelievable how far we've come. I mean, we really are living through a technological revolution, and it is an incredibly exciting time to be alive.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's really cool to witness all this stuff unfold as we speak. One of my favorite instances I've seen that ChatGPT has done. I saw a video, and I'm not sure if it's real or not. The other side that we're getting into this is there's a lot of people that are saying these things can do things that I don't necessarily know if they're true or not. But I watched this video where this guy said, "I'm going to take $100 and turn it into as much money as possible using ChatGPT." And he said, "I'm just going to do whatever this software tells me to do." And I believe at one point it hired somebody off of Indeed or Fiverr or something like that to break a CAPTCHA to basically, read the letters to it. And and I mean, that's just mind boggling to me. The fact that this computer program essentially told someone else to get a job and then told somebody else to do it so it could crack a code essentially. I mean, do you think that's real, or do you think that's just like science fiction? Do you think that can really happen, that it can sort of real world implement these things in that manner?
Oh, so I haven't seen this exact video, so I don't know the exact specifics of what has happened, but I do believe there are a whole host of fantastical possibilities that already exist. There is this capability overhang that exists in ChatGPT and these large language models, which means we're unaware of what are some of the capabilities that exist within them already. And essentially, they can do so much more than they've already done because it's a brand new technology. It's been around like on on complete release for everyone in the world for less than a year. And this means that there are so many things that are going to happen still that we did not envisage it would be capable of. And we're adding more and more features to it all the time. So now ChatGPT has the ability to use plugins, so people can add external APIs, external applications linked to ChatGPT, so it can perform functions in other areas of the web. For example, it can send emails for you, it can look up flight, it can bring in real-time data, and it can also access the internet, so it can see what's going on in the world. And even as you said, its potential to hire people and manage funds and money. And this is only going to infinitely increase what is possible. And essentially, as we make it more powerful, we are also increasing the potential risk of what it can achieve. And we're going to see a whole host of nefarious, malicious capabilities and coming out as well. and I mean, I'm just dreaming of the day where I can simply wake up and write in ChatGPT, just like, send me a cheeseburger and a beautiful bouquet of flowers and write me a love poem and have it read by a beautiful woman. And I don't know if I would like that future, but I think it is coming.
Yeah, somebody's going to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, these AI girlfriends
I
coming
think,
out.
Hey, I know, it's got to be coming. It's got to be coming. That's an interesting conversation as well. A lot of this, a lot of the technology that is rising now is like AR, augmented reality, and virtual reality, and things like that. And they have these new spaces like the Metaverse, which I don't think has been implemented quite enough yet. But it's kind of fascinating to me. It's like that movie Ready Player One. We are sort of heading towards that, and I'm sure there are people in the world that want that. I want to be in this sort of realistic, completely immersive experience as well. And AI, I think, would sort of generate all that, real time. Have you ever dealt with any of the metaverse projects or any like virtual reality situations or anything like that yet?
So what I have been looking at is a guy called Scotty Fox, and he is working in the space between generative AI and VR. And he has some incredible projects that he's been working on that are really leading the frontier in this space. And one thing he has demonstrated is being in VR and essentially typing in a prompt and generating in entire 3D realities whilst you're in VR. So you can simply type in something and it will change what's outside of a window, or it will change what's on the desk, or it will change the entire scene that you are in. And I think what we're going to start to see is this go further, where it's not just like a single 360-degree panorama that you can generate in real time, but you can start to be generating characters that you can interact with, as well as entire realms and universes that we can exist in. And as soon as it starts learning your preferences, you can simply like put on your VR headset and have AI generate an entire new reality based on your preferences of what you might enjoy. And this is not so far away at all. I mean, we're starting to see some very basic proofs of concepts going down this road already. And that really raises a lot of interesting possibilities for a whole host of living your dreams, essentially, in any way that you want.
I just find that entire concept fascinating. I also, to the people that are listening to this right now and they think, oh, I will never do that. I'll remind you that schools, for example, they don't use pens and pencils really anymore. Everybody's got a Chromebook. Everybody's got some form of technology or an iPad or something. And you didn't have any control over that as well. And if you noticed in the I don't know if you've seen the advertisements for Meta for their Oculus VR headset, they sort of had one of the situations in their advertisement was a group of school children sitting around with their teacher, and they put on these headsets, and now rather than talking about this gorilla, now they're in the jungle with the gorilla, experiencing in real time, where the thing is, it's not outside of the realm of possibility. It is very near, if not already here, and it's just fascinating to me. Some people I could see where they would be terrified of that. Other people, I think it's just a beautiful reality that you can sort of, like you said, I want to experience this now. Like, imagine being at work and like, oh, I'm just had a really busy day. I'm tired of doing spreadsheets all day, and you put this on, and now you're on Mars somewhere, living a completely different reality. It's mind-boggling to see how these things have advanced so quickly.
I remember being at school and having a backpack filled with these gigantic textbooks that like having to carry around 5 textbooks every day, and each one being maybe 300 pages. And then you're carrying these like 10 kilos or like one tree around. And I was thinking like, oh my God, like every year they release a new version of this, like how many trees are cut down. And like it was also very bad on my back as like a small child having to lug around these huge textbooks every day. So I'm glad.
These kids, they don't know how good they have it these days. I hate at the risk of sounding like an old man. I remember having a backpack that extended like a foot behind me, filled with books. It was just pushed out.
Oh, it was a tough life, but yeah, those were the days.
Yeah. Well, it's a wild time to be alive, man. The other side of this that I wanted to talk to you about as well, because I think it's really neat. The concept of deepfakes. And I don't know if you've delved into this in your channel or doing any research or anything like that at all, but today I watched a scene from the movie Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood, and somebody had made a deep fake of this. It was, if you're not familiar with Gran Torino, it's this movie about an older man who there's a lot of gang activity moving into his neighborhood, and he's just tired of it. Well, they had made a deep fake where they replaced Clint Eastwood with President Joe Biden. And it gave an entire new feel to the film for some reason. And it's just amazing to me. One of the things that's going on right now is the Screen Actors Guild is on strike. And it's partially because of the implementation of AI in their jobs. And of all the places where you would think that they would be the last place to strike because of that, it's an interesting concept that one of the concerns from the film companies was that they were trying to make these actors be scanned into these AI programs so that they can essentially be movies made without them needing to physically be there. Do you think that's far-fetched? Do you think that's like out of the realm of possibilities, or do you think that's these deepfakes, do you think they could be good enough to pass as a full-time movie?
I recently saw that Bruce Willis's face was deep faked onto an advert in Russia, and people they realized something was a little bit up, but it looks incredibly realistic. And I essentially understand that Bruce Willis has developed a degenerative health condition so that he can no longer act. And so on one hand, we're allowing actors to actually continue to act beyond the time that they are alive or able to act. So there is obviously a possibility of this being a beautiful example of how to use it. But then we are getting close to the point where we can deepfake people's faces, people's voices, to the point where we cannot recognize if it's true or not. And this is an incredibly dangerous place to live in. I mean, it's really changing our understanding of identity and the value of having your own personal, unique voice and face in the world. And it's going to become very difficult to protect that, especially with the fact that many countries are basically allowing copyright not to be protected. For example, China is very loose on their copyright protection. And I can understand that actors are scared and afraid of this. And I think it will be hard to protect. And there is this new paradigm coming up, this new plan, which is being put together by the US government and a number of the largest players in the game. I think Adobe and Microsoft are being included, where they want to basically showcase on the internet basically this new tag that will declare whether an image or a video is original or it's been created with AI. So they're trying to bring in already some sort of identifier, some sort of way of proving whether something is official and original or it's been generated with AI. And I think this is key for the future and the safety of the whole of humanity.
Yeah, I mean, that's brilliant. I think you actually, I saw that you did a video similar to that, talking about, how to discern where these images were created. I'm not sure the context of it, but I believe it was, there was like a fence that was in front of a building, and you could tell that there was a fence sort of, it didn't fit the scenery very well. But I think there was like a Russian website, a news website, that reported it as fact or something like that. I mean, that really, like, that border right there of how that just shows you that a professional news organization had to discern whether or not this was a real photo. It's really amazing the level of detail and clarity that can really go unnoticed with these things.
Yeah, absolutely. That was an image of the Pentagon on fire, and Russia Today posted that it was a true photo and that the Pentagon was on fire, and it actually had an effect on the stock markets at that moment, and there was a mini dip in the prices of every stock globally because of this falsely tweeted image by Russia Today. And as you say, the fencing at the very bottom of the image, it melded into the background. And so if you looked carefully, it was very evident that it was an AI generated image.
There was a movie I watched that at the time it seemed like science fiction, and it wasn't very long ago. I want to say it was like 2014. It was with Johnny Depp. It was called Transcendence. Have you ever seen that movie?
I don't think I have seen that, but I'll add it to my list.
Oh my goodness. Go find it right after this interview. It deals with artificial intelligence, and a lot of it is far-fetched. Like, eventually it starts affecting the real world and things like this. But essentially, Johnny Depp's character uploads himself into an AI. And, at the time when this came out, I saw it when it first came out, and I was like, wow, that's a really cool science fiction-y type thing. And then you start seeing these things happen in real time, and it's like, whoa, that's like real. And oh man, you got to go check it out when you're done. But he starts manipulating the stock market. Like, there's a scene where he's like an investor's like, oh, we need some money, and he crashes the NYSE and then pulls it back up, and makes like $500 million in like 30 seconds or whatever, and just gives it to him. Here you go ahead. It's amazing the level of detail I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility. I think that could totally happen now that I've seen some of these tools and how they work. I mean, do you think that's something that's coming? Do you think that once these people start, for example, Chatgpt 4 sort of implementing the internet into that and outside interactions from the internet into that, do you think that's something that we sort of have to safeguard against? Somebody saying, "Oh, well, I make me $1 million in crypto right now." Do you think that's something that could happen?
Yes, I think essentially, I mean, these are only allowing us to leverage our own capabilities better. So people can essentially go and make $1 million in crypto if they understand the market. They're looking at potentially good projects. They're evaluating their benefit. They're also potentially like leveraging hype, or should we say like rug pulls. So ChatGPT is essentially giving you an assistant who will vastly increase your capability to do these things. I think at the moment it's not going to go and do it for you, but what it is going to do is going to make it a lot easier for you to do that. And I mean, the same with any other project, essentially, as well. It's increasing our productivity, our intelligence, our speed to execute and deploy different plans. So whatever you're working on, if you are trying to make money off the crypto market, and essentially what you can do, you can help using ChatGPT to pass a lot of data and pull out trends. So you can look at potential moves in the market using different algorithmic practices. And this will give you an edge on other traders if you're implementing this well. But the thing is that it's only going to enhance what you already have. It's a multiplier of what you put in, is how I see it. So if you have the skills, the capability, the understanding to do that, it's only going to allow you to do that more quickly, or learn how to do that. But you're still going to need this like nascent intelligence to actually find the unique opportunities to deploy it.
That's a great way of looking at it, as a multiplier as well. It's only going to grow what you already have. If you don't have that thing, if you don't have that understanding, it's not going to work for you. I like the way that you put that. This has just been a fascinating conversation, and I think that I really look forward to the content that you're producing in the future, because I've learned a lot of stuff from your channel, and I've learned a lot of techniques and things from watching some of the videos, and ways to help not only me, but just like generate new ideas. I think it's very creative what you're doing, and I really appreciate your content. I think it's very interesting to see what you're doing. With that being said, what do you think? What's the next big push? What's the next big move that you see coming with the whole AI space? What are the majority of projects that you see coming out? What's like your next big thing that you're excited about for AI?
Thing that I'm most excited about is seeing how we can really take these tools and apply them to industries that are slow movers. So you see some of the more advanced, more flexible industries starting to take advantage of these tools. Places like architecture firms are already implementing AI very well. But if we're looking at other institutions, other careers such as law or accounting, they have a huge potential to improve their practices, their processes, and their services with AI. And so what we're going to start to see are essentially AI automation agencies, AI consultants, who are going to be going into these slower to move industries and helping them improve their process, improve their services with AI. So I think one thing that's really interesting is like getting advice, getting free consultations with experts in different fields that are serviced by AI. So if you need a lawyer, an advice from a lawyer or an accountant, but actually it's going to like lower the cost of some of these services. And also essentially like the first person you would talk to will be an AI, and they will take down your details. They will give you like a first response. They will give you a quote, and this can all be automated in seconds. And so this is going to be really exciting to see all of these industries. I mean, even finance is a great one to look at how AI is going to affect that. But the biggest moves we're going to start to see now is how these large services that we use in our lives to perform complex processes are hugely evolved. And this is going to be a bit slower, but it's definitely the most exciting things. to look out for in the next years?
Well, it's definitely a wild time to be alive, and I'm just very excited to see what happens in the future in this entire field. I'm really excited to see the things that come from your channel as well. You know, I think a lot of the tools that I've seen you use and a lot of the content that you've made has sort of helped me understand some of these things on a lot more broader level, a lot more, how to use them and things. It's really interesting. So Misfits, if you're out there and you haven't checked out Samson's channel, definitely go give him a view on YouTube. I mean, it's very interesting to see how these things can be implemented to make your life just easier in general. So kudos to you, man. It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, my channel is Samson Vowles, Delightful Design. And as you say, I create videos about how people can make the most of this new technology and have a lot of fun whilst doing it.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely that. It's definitely that. Well, we are winding down towards the end of the episode, Samson. And at the end of every episode, I ask all of my guests the same question. It's one question in two parts, and you can literally answer it in any way you want possible. Some people give business-minded answers about their next project they're doing. Some people, I had one guy tell me he wants to catch a fish this summer. But here's the question. You ready for it?
Fire away.
All right. So what was the last goal that you completed, and what is the next goal that you want to set for yourself?
Wow. So the last goal that I completed was... so yesterday I got a photo shoot done so I can up-level the quality of my thumbnails on my YouTube channel. So I went to this like professional photography studio and took like 500 photos of me pulling all manner of different expressions and faces. And I was very pleased to have got that done. And now I have all these wonderful photos so I can actually create high-quality thumbnails for my channel.
Awesome.
And
so what is the next goal that you want to set for yourself?
So the next goal that I want to set for myself is I would like to reach 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
All right. Well, Misfits, you know where to go. Go check him out. I'll put links to all of his stuff down in the show notes and comments down below. And Samson, this has been a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. I know that you've got some AC people about to come in and knock down your computer right now.
Yeah, there are like 3 AC units here in my living room about to be implemented because it's about 38 degrees Celsius here in Tbilisi. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's hot.
It's hot. We'll just leave it at it's hot. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And Misfits, like I said, all that information is down in the show notes below. Go check them out. You won't be disappointed. I've learned a lot, and I think you will too. I appreciate you taking the time to come on and speak with me, Samson, and you have a great afternoon, okay?
Thanks a lot, Chris. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I loved the way that you moved between questions. I felt there was a real lovely weaving of each one. So thank you for your wonderful questions.